Now, in the Linux Skills Basic workshop, I mentioned that Linux is very good for doing automation and doing developer type things. One of the things or Bash is really good at is automating things and doing things over and over for you while you don't have to sit there, have to wait on things to happen. So here's an example of what you might want to do. So if you look in our folder, we have lots of files. Let's say I want to run a simulation, or I want to run a program on all the files in the current folder. I have, say, a list of simulations or data files that I want to process, but I don't want to have to type these in over and over and over again. For one, it's boring, and two, I'll probably mistype something. So the way to handle this is you use a for loop. Now, in this example, I'm saying for file in my star. So if you remember your wildcards, my star matches any file that begins with the file or directory that begins with the word my. So it gets a list of all the files matching my star and loops over them, putting each entry into the variable called file, and then runs the command and substitutes the variable file in there. So if we copy and paste these lines, right-click copy, right-click paste. If I hit enter, you'll see something a little odd. What this is doing, the head command, it runs the head command on every file. Now head normally lists the first 10 lines of a file, but I'm giving it the -n1 option, which says list only the first line of each file. So this is a good way of getting a summary of all the files in a folder. Now, sometimes you don't always have a match or a handy wildcard that matches everything you want. Maybe you have a list of files sitting in another file. For example, you have one file that contains a list of all your simulations or all the data files that you want to process. Now, if we look at the file called mylist, it contains 2 lines and those lines are file 1 and file 2. So if we do a similar thing as to what was before, we have a for loop. Now what this does is this is going to process, instead of using a wildcard, it's going to take the output or the contents of my list and substitute it where these backticks are. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter, and you see the numbers 1 to 10 twice. Now if we look at file 1, that has the numbers 1 to 10. If I look at file 2, it is 1 to 11. If I run my command again, hit up a few times, notice it's compressed everything onto one line. You notice that it only prints lines 1 to 10, even though one of the files had an 11th line. To illustrate what's happening with my list and the backticks, I'll go through a couple of examples. If we cat the file, this shows us the output of the file. If I do echo backtick cat my list, then actually it just takes the output or the output of the cat command and pastes it where the backticks were. So I can actually put stuff before and after, and it's perfectly okay. Now you see that it's just simply substituted what the output of cat mylist was. You notice that the New lines are not preserved, so just be careful with that. But we can see in our example that it simply ran the command head on each file. And each file was just a separate line or a separate entry in the file called mylist.